Hi, my name is Linda Cirulli-Burton, and welcome to this channel named Above the Battleground, ACIM. About 8 months ago, something happened to me, and I encourage you to pay close attention to the words that I use to describe what my response was to what happened. I felt absolutely attacked, unjustly accused. I felt blindsided, broadsided, absolutely victimized, innocent. Oh, and mostly I felt innocent. So that weekend, when this episode occurred, in the presence really of people for whom I had deep affection, I plummeted. I cried, I screamed, I went through the text of A Course in Miracles, the workbook, the manual, trying to find some way to cope. And I gotta honestly tell you, I did find a semblance, if you will, of solace. And so then I put it away. And then a couple weeks ago, to my amazing shock, it all came up. I ended up crying and carrying on to a third party. And it was very clear that I had not reached the depths of forgiveness that I thought I had. And that is what I wanted to address today. Above the Battleground is based on the teachings of a spiritual self-study path known as A Course in Miracles. I've been a student of A Course in Miracles since 1992, but it's only been very recently that I am extremely devoted to applying the teachings and the inspiration to my everyday life. The purpose for the videos was to literally share so that the lessons would go deeper within me. And they are. And maybe be of some benefit to you as you struggle on your own spiritual path. First, what I would like to do is address the nuances of the concept of forgiveness. So forgiveness in A Course in Miracles, as explained in the glossary index for A Course in Miracles, has permutations, right? So one of it might be that we look at our specialness with the Holy Spirit or Jesus without guilt or judgment. Shifting from special hate and special love to looking at our comrades as our brothers, as our friends, not as our enemies. To remove all projections of guilt. So if I want to place my guilt on you, you become the ones who are culpable and therefore must be punished, okay? Now, also, it would mean looking at the seeming differences that reflect separation, which it was very clear that was going on that evening. And the recognition, and this is what's monster. And this is what's monster. The recognition that what we thought was done to us, we did to ourselves. Since we are responsible for our scripts, and therefore only we can deprive ourselves of the peace of God. Thus, we forgive others for what they have not done to us, not for what they have done. And I find that so intriguing. And I'm going to tell you that that is one of the tenets that comes up that people just, really get annoyed with. Why would I want this? Why would I want that? Why would I choose for this to happen? Well, I have to tell you that choice is not being made from the right mind. It is being made from the wrong mind. It is the ego mind that is placing lives, these bodies, in the ego world and creating episodes for us. And I have to tell you, I am actually so convinced that that event that occurred to me 8 months ago was a perfect design for me to feel all the words that I expressed to you, to feel like I was innocent, to feel like I was a victim, to feel like this and that and that and this, and then to finally, at the bedrock level, get it that I clearly wanted this to happen so that I could feel all of those feelings, and then the guilt would be on you. And this isn't easy for any one of us to embrace, but I have to tell you that after 8 months, I finally got it. So I wanted to reference, if you don't mind, 2 books that were written by an author and a teacher of A Course in Miracles, Gary Renard. Now, I have a very special feeling for Gary because we actually have the same birthday, March 6, 1951. So he wrote 4 books, and I believe that he will be always among the greatest teachers of A Course in Miracles. Really, for me, second only to Ken Wapnick, Dr. Ken Wapnick. So these 2 gentlemen have really brought me perspectives and wisdom that I think could have taken me many lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation, many lifetimes to acquire. So I want to reference 2 books by Gary Renard. One is The Disappearance of the Universe, and the other is Love Has Forgotten No One, The Answer to Life. Okay, so these are 2 of the 4 that he's written so far, and I have I believe that a 5th book will be coming out probably over the next 6 months. But Gary Renard is worth every moment that you take to read and listen to him and his lovely wife, Cindy Laura. So in Gary Renard's books, what is presumed is reincarnation. 2 ascended masters visit with him on a regular, semi-regular basis, Arten and Persa. So Arten being the male, Persa the female. And what comes out in the books is that Persa is Gary Renard in his next life. Cindy, the woman to whom he is married in this lifetime, will come back as Arten, okay, Persa's beloved husband. Something happened to Persa in her life that was what we would call the slow burn. So what happened, and I was very, very intrigued with this because in this lifetime, Persa is a university professor. She's deeply knowledgeable in her subject area. She's teaching at a prestigious university, and then something happens to her. What happens is that a young student is flunked in her class, and he is so abundantly frightened of what will happen to him as a result of having flunked this course that he goes to her and asks her to pass him, or he will then share that she wanted sexual favors from him, which he refused to participate in. And so then she flunked him. Now, what's going to happen is that he will go to the media with this, and it will activate and gather a storm, and more students will come forward who now have someone to pin their guilt on. Guys and girls to blame this professor for what she had never done. And of course, she had all the receipts on why this young man had to be fired. But, once they go for you, it can often be a gray zone. And eventually what will happen is that the university will release her because, after all, her presence is affecting their recruitment. And the way that Persa expresses what happened to her after that was the slow burn. It took a long time maybe 2 years, but then what she says is even beyond the 2 years, certain things, it would come up, thoughts would come up, and she would have to look at them with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, to release these thoughts. And then she could see where he was operating from fear and his own nauseum. But it took a long time. And ultimately, where she ended up was the bedrock of forgiveness. And so let me just, it would help if the book didn't close every single time. Anyway, we forgive others for what they have not done to us, not for what they have done. And what becomes very clear is that at the beginning of A Course in Miracles, it says nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And so eventually, Persa was able to look at this event in her life as something that she had set up in the ego script. And the ego script did not exist. And what I understood a couple of weeks ago is that that was the piece of forgiveness, the place I had not yet gone. And when I went to that place, I could really begin to let it go. It's what we call a slow burn. Now, I can say to you that everything in the ego mind, in the wrong mind, in the mind of separation, of sin, guilt, and fear, it's all the same. And yet our experience in our bodies are that it feels different. One thing feels different from another. So what I want to say is, let's not be critical of ourselves when we mess up with our forgiveness lessons. And just know that some lessons are a slow burn. And we try this and we try that. And then finally, through our efforts, through our willingness with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, we can get it. You're not really there if I think you are guilty and the cause of the problem. And if I made you up, and I did make you up, the guilt isn't in you. It's not in me. It's nowhere now. So I'm really on my way to forgiving and releasing. Now that I've worked my way through the multiple levels of forgiveness, now that I'm right where I should be. So thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.